How's it going, guys? Hope you're having a good day. My day's okay. Thank you for asking. We have a special guest with us, if you haven't already noticed. This is my dog, Clay. He's gonna be 10 years old today. Still looks like a little baby to me. But he's gonna be my debate partner. Wonder what he's thinking. Nah, he's probably just thinking about eating. I still haven't fed him yet. It's getting late. But just wanted to come on here, talk about some more things. Today, I wanted to talk about how the mind is an illusion. And I know how that may sound. It's very loaded. There's a lot of avenues we could go down, lots of different ways that we could, think about it, really, which is ironic. But I think the way in which I want to take you down the path, that I'm trying to show you is by explaining that not everything that we think and not everything we feel is always something, right? We'll just say that. We'll say something. And what I mean when I say something is that not all the things that come across us, or to us rather, are things to pay attention to, right? The same way, if you're walking down the street and some random, person is freaking out, maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they're on drugs, whatever it might be, and they start freaking out, right? You just keep walking. Keep walking by, you don't pay them any mind, even though they came into vicinity with you, right? Even though they came into contact with you, or even a dog, right? If Clay walks up to you, you're probably gonna start petting him, but that's because he's a very special dog. But if a random dog came up to you, you're not gonna be so happy to see them. And I mean, okay, that's not true. There are people out there who I know for a fact, if they saw a random dog walk up to them, they would be happy, which isn't the safest thing to do, but I can't blame them. But regardless, the point that I'm trying to make is that not everything that approaches us is always something of note, right? Works that way in real life, should work the exact same way with our mind. But we all know that it doesn't. We all know that, like even late at night, right? Like think about it like this. How you're staying up late at night and all you can think about is your cringiest memories, or all you can think about is how you screwed up or how you didn't do something correctly, right? It's like those kind of examples are the stuff I'm talking about, where, it's not as easy. It's not as easy to be able to, just kind of forget about it, or just brush it off. Oh, that's just something, whatever. And there are people out there who are very skilled at that. And I said that word very particularly, skilled, right? Because I cannot understand why, even just in day-to-day society, especially school, that we don't think of thinking as something, like as an action. We don't think of it as something that you take part in, almost the same way you would a skill, something that you practice, right? And it's very odd, very, very, very odd that we don't think anything of it. That's really the simplest way to put it. We don't think of thinking as something other than just whatever, right? You wake up and the first things you're thinking about, oh well, it doesn't matter. Or you're going to bed, things you're thinking about, oh well, whatever. You're hanging out with somebody, maybe you like them, maybe you don't like them. You could be thinking terrible things about them, you could be thinking nothing about them, right? Oh well, whatever. We approach the whole action of thinking as something that's just you can just it's whatever. And this thought, right, this thought of how we approach thinking has infiltrated every single avenue of life. Whether you're watching a movie, whether you're talking to somebody, whether you're trying to go to sleep, whether you're on the phone, it could be anything, right? Like you're doom scrolling, doesn't matter what it is. And so the reason why I'm being so repetitive, right? And the reason why that I'm making such a big deal of that, lackadaisical attitude towards that is because that's exactly why we're in the position we're in. Is because of that attitude, right? It's not rocket science that the attitude you take towards something is going to be how you treat it, right? You know how they always say, oh, don't think about negative things. Don't think about negative things. Why is it any different with this, right? And not only that, but more importantly, why is this something that is not made apparent? Like not even necessarily spoken about, right? But just said. And I don't know, maybe this is my fault. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe I haven't come across the right, people. Maybe it's because I'm in the US and they teach things a very specific way, whatever it might be, right? From my perspective, from my experiences, I have yet to hear thinking be something that is spoken of in a way that is more than just whatever, right? And so for those that are unfamiliar, thinking about your thoughts is what's called metacognitive, right? It's where you, like how I said, you are conscious and are thinking of the things that you're thinking about. And clearly that is not something that is practiced. Okay? There's no way that it is. And if it is, for whatever reason, people just do not care. They do not seem to care. I'm sorry, did I upset you? You have something to say? No, but in all seriousness, it's very sad because, let's say you're trying to watch a movie with somebody, right? And you can clearly tell this movie sucks. This movie is nothing more than the same cliches, the same generic stuff that we've seen in movies for years, right? And this is going to give me a lot of hate, but horror movies, I cannot stand them. I can't, and I refuse. I refuse to give in to this cult that has amassed that people seem to think that horror movies are amazing, right? And if you're watching a horror movie and you're admitting that it's like cheesy or that it kind of sucks and that you still like it anyways, cool, totally cool. I have no qualms. I have no problem with that. The people that I'm talking about are the people who are like, oh, such and such movie is the best. Oh, I love that movie. Everything about that movie is so good. And they start going on, right? It's their magnum opus, apparently. This random garbage movie that covers absolutely nothing. Talks about the same thing, right? Oh, demons this. Oh, person gets possessed. Oh, person ends up, killing themselves, right? Same stuff over and over, right? And so anyways, the point that I was trying to make is, let's say you're watching a movie, right? This movie sucks. And the person that you're watching with thinks it's great. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the fact that they think it's good. The problem comes once you try to explain to them why it's not good, right? And you lay it out, and you can even look these things up, right? You can go on Google, show them, oh, look, you see here, save the hero in the nick of time cliche? Yeah, you see that? That's been a thing forever, right? And then they still go, and they walk away, and they're like, yeah, I guess. Whatever. I guess that makes sense. They don't really care. They do not care. I think that is the perfect example of how people approach day-to-day life. And that's how they approach our own mindset, right? People do not care. They don't care, even when you put it right in front of their face. And I feel like it has so much more to do with how I said in the beginning, the illusions of your mind. It has way more to do with that rather than the actual person themselves. Because think about it like this. If you're in a maze and you don't know that you're in a maze, then you're never going to think you're in a maze. And even if somebody comes up to you and tells you, you're in a maze, dude, you're going to think, because you're happy, right? Especially because you're comfortable. So you have no reason to think that you're in a maze. It's kind of like, I forget who it was, but there's a quote, and it goes, it's easy to fool a man, but it's impossible to convince him he's been fooled. It's the exact same thing, right? You have your mind, and so of course your mind is going to tell you that it's not tricking you. Of course it's going to tell you everything that it's telling you is the way that it should be. Like, oh, hey, by the way, when I send these emotions, when I send these thoughts, when I do this, don't pay any mind to it because that's the way it's supposed to be, right? It's perpetuating the system. And so people, because that's just the way they think, they think that that's just the way that things are, they pay no mind. Oh yeah, whatever, it's probably not okay that I got jealous that my boyfriend is hugging his sister. Oh, it's probably not okay that my girlfriend is, hugging her brother, and that makes me upset that she's around another dude, Like people don't, nope, nothing. Doesn't even cross their mind. No, no red flags, no check engine light coming on, nothing. And they walk away and they continue their day-to-day life. And what makes it even worse is that the people who don't deal with those circumstances, right? Like, let's say you're talking to somebody else who has never experienced something like that, right? They don't think it's real. They'll just be like, oh no, there's no way. There's no way that happens to people. That doesn't happen to people. You want to know what their reasoning is? Because it doesn't happen to them. Oh, that's never happened to me. I've never had that happen. And so, it's funny too, because the illusions play into their mind as well. And that is the exact reason why that they are incapable of understanding what you're talking about. And so it reminds me of, I forget how to pronounce it. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I really could care less. It's like Ouroboros, I believe, something like that. You can look it up. It starts with an O. It's basically, you'll see an image of a snake that's eating itself. And basically what it means is that the thing that is perpetuating the system is going to be the thing that thrives off the system. Oh, he got tired. He's right here in front of me. Well, get out of here. Go. If you don't want to debate me, go. Go. Anyways, the thing that is perpetuating the system, the thing that is the system is the better way to phrase that, is going to thrive off the system. The same way that the snake is eating itself, right? And it's eating itself. So it's thriving off of itself. It's the exact same way. That's the exact same way the mind works. The mind is never going to stop to think, maybe I should eat something else if I'm thriving while I'm eating this, even if I'm harming myself the whole time, right? And so what eventually happens is that you become so familiar with things, regardless of the connotation, by the way, regardless if they're positive, regardless if they're negative. And for the negative aspect, this applies tenfold. And so what that means is that your brain is incapable of seeing the difference between something that is negative and positive. Now, that doesn't mean that the brain does not understand the difference between survival and death, because that's how the brain thinks. The brain thinks in terms of survival and in terms of familiarity, right? So again, how I brought up in my last video, the triangle of needs, right? Survival is always at the top. So when you're doing things, when you're thinking about things, when you're going places, the first filter that your mind thinks through is survival. So every time you meet somebody, every time you go somewhere new, every time you open a door for somebody, right? It could be anything. The first thing that your brain is thinking is this okay? Is this safe for me? And so, that's a very extreme example. Now it becomes a lot harder when you put it into subtle, minute, trivial things that people don't think anything of. It becomes 10 times harder to try and think of it as something, right? Just how I said with the movie, right? You would think of it, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that someone would think that watching a movie is the equivalent of your brain thinking you're safe, right? But I promise you, this is why movies suck. This is why a lot of things are garbage nowadays, is because people are either unwilling or do not know that this is the way in which that their brain thinks. And so you find yourself in positions that are not good for you, and yet you feel okay. And like how I brought up familiarity, there is nothing more that the brain loves than being familiar with something. Familiarity. And the reason why is because of survival. Your brain thinks that if you know the thing that you're dealing with, that you have more likely of a chance to survive. Because you know, you're familiar, right? If you're hanging out with somebody, the reason why you feel okay being around them is because you've been around them for so long. But if you're meeting somebody new, you don't know them, therefore, they might be able to harm you. And so, just like how I said the brain loves familiarity, the opposite of that is that the brain hates the unknown, right? And so the first thing that you might think of is children being afraid of the dark, you know, being afraid of moving somewhere new, being afraid of meeting new people, right? Whatever example that you want to give, that is the reason why. Because your brain cannot make the, I guess, assumption that things are going to be safe. So this isn't supposed to be a psychology lesson, by the way. I know that I'm getting off track, but I realize how long this video is and how muffled my mic was only until now. But to close off, right? You have to understand that, I'm going to hold it up, by the way, just so make sure you can hear. To fully understand the point that I'm trying to make is that there is so many more ways in which that we would be able to think of things if we first started thinking about what we think about, right? And I know, again, a lot of the things I say are common sense, and a lot of the things that I talk about seem so, like obvious, just so obvious. But I promise you that if you go out anywhere, if you talk to people, if you go on social media, whatever it might be, you're gonna see that there's just no thought going on, no conscious thought at least, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, or oh yeah, I understand what you're talking about. Like it's just, I don't know what it is, but I just want to come on here, talk about that, share my thoughts. Let me know what you want to see next. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your day.